that's where I do side with the fans, where it's like, look, I'm not saying I think Michkov should be getting 20 minutes a night, but I find it hard to justify him getting 10.
We got to set up what's happening with the Flyers, because last night Flyers fans were trying to organize a Fire Tocchet chant 1 minute into their game.
Jesus Christ, I didn't know this.
It didn't really take, but they were trying to organize it. So we told you recently that the team was really struggling, losing a lot of games. They beat the Capitals last night 4-2. But yes, fans that were there trying to organize a Fire Tocchet chant. There's a situation bubbling between their head coach, Rick Tocchet, and their star young player, Matvei Michkov. Michkov, high draft pick, scored 26 goals last season as a rookie, struggling this season, 4 goals in his last 18 games. There's been some talk as to why is he struggling? Is this his own doing? Did he come into camp in shape? That isn't questions being asked. It's stuff just being said by the coach. Rick Tocchet came to the Flyers this offseason after basically abandoning the Vancouver Canucks, which we all looked at and we were like, respectfully, good behavior.
Yeah, I mean,
get out of there, brother.
Hindsight, what a great business decision on his part.
But things aren't going so great between those two. And on Saturday against the Kings, Michkov got a season low 10-21 time on ice over the weekend. Sunday, Tocchet was on the PHLY podcast and was asked about it. Here's what he said.
Yesterday, Matvei Michkov,
Sure.
10 minutes of ice time. The fans that I have spoken to are not happy about some of the things that have gone on since you've been here with the young player that we were all so excited about a year ago. What does he have to do to get to that level and earn your trust so he can play the minutes people like me think he should get?
So you think he should get it because he's earned it, because he came, like, we've talked about it, and I'll be very frank, and Charlie will tell you, I'm a very frank guy, honestly. I go down swinging. Yeah. Matty did not come into camp in shape, and it's hard to play yourself in shape. I have not told him or any other players, take a guy one-on-one, come out of the corner with the puck, on a rush, like, make a play through rush. He's having a tough time in those situations. So, yeah, you could say, well, other players try. I mean, I get it. Maybe they don't have the skill set, but we're trying to get him to that level, right? How to develop him, practice, making sure that you're on time for treatments and things like that. There's so much into that. The way you eat, the way, like, that's it. You don't become a star because you think, oh, this guy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking in general.
Yeah, sure.
Any person. Look at Trevor Zegras. For a couple bad years he comes here, bought into a couple of things, and he's doing a hell of a job for us. He's a little bit of a slump, and I was trying to get him through the center position, see if I think there's a time to try it right now, whether we can do or not. We'll see, and keep putting him out there. But so that's just, I don't know if I've answered the question, but that's kind of the rules of winning, right? The crest supersedes everything, not individuals. That's how I believe.
That was too much fun. The whole time they were showing that clip, which is important, and there's parts of it that I do want to center in on, that, like, he did not need to volunteer that he's missing treatment. And, like, he is getting little digs in there, and I know that we'll play a clip from Daniel Briere, the GM of the team, in just a minute, where he's saying, like, oh, no, everything's okay between those two. They have a good working relationship, but I'm getting someone who's frustrated with the player and is taking it out on the player, and you could argue why that's right or wrong. But none of you fuckers in the chat heard any of that or cared about that, because you were doing two things. You were standing the person sitting next to Rick Tocchet. That is Charlie O'Connor, who's going to join us in a second. And you were saying that, why does he keep saying that he's Frank? You told me his name was Rick. You are the corniest people in the world, and I was laughing the entire time.
Frank Tocchet. There's allegations of Frank Tocchet here. Why? Because he's a Republican?
I was just going to say.
I did like that he said there, like, look, fam, Charlie will tell you. And then he said all of his stuff, that he put it on Charlie O'Connor.
And Charlie was just staring at him, being like, don't put this on me. Everybody's mad at you.
I didn't do this. Now, before the game yesterday and before the attempts at chanting Fire Tocchet, Daniel Briere met with the media before the game to discuss the relationship between these two people. He said, like, off the rip, let me tell you, Michkov's not going anywhere. He's going to be part of the future here. Both of these guys are going to be here for a long time, et cetera, et cetera. I watched the whole 9-minute thing. It was so fucking boring that I wanted to have, like, a bunch of clips that we could react to. But generally, what he did was, and shout out Danny Briere, love him, Short King, very important in Pete's culture. He just listed every player who's ever played for the Flyers. Did you watch this?
No, I didn't.
He was like, look, people have come into camp out of shape. People have struggled as young players. I mean, Barkey. Every answer he said, he just named 60 people to try to be like, this is not about Matvei Michkov, even though he's talking about how the coach is saying stuff specifically about Matvei Michkov. But here's the most interesting answer I could find. Sean?
Is there any concern that, maybe Matvei didn't make the best first impression and then he might not be able to overcome that with Rick over the long term?
Well, if you mean that, he showed up, he wasn't in the best physical condition, that's true. And Matvei was the first one to admit it. But, Rick knows how important he is to the future of this organization. He wants to make it work. The coaching staff have probably spent more time with him trying to help him out. So there's no problem with the relationship there. When you win, everybody's happy. When you lose and you don't score goals, obviously guys, get a little testy. But I don't see any issues between the two of them. They are both very critical of themselves, and they both have that inner drive. I played with Rick Tocchet. I see how Matvei is. They're both very driven individual, and they want the best for the team and for the Flyers.
Okay, that was the only clip in which he didn't name other players, so I tried to keep it focused. Yeah, the chat's just fucking distracting me. Maybe I'm just having a tough week, but you're being extra funny today. But I do remember cutting that clip, and in it he says, look, these guys both take their job seriously. One of them just shows up to camp fat, and the other one gets mad at him.
It's crazy. I feel like we're like where we are with Rick Tocchet is where we're at with Jim Rutherford, which is like he's really honest, and I respect the hell out of it, and it's very entertaining. I don't know if it's good for the situation, is the way that I'll say. Like I love a guy who's frank. I love a guy who's bald. I love a guy who gets in front of a microphone and just says whatever he's thinking. But I don't know if it necessarily leads to the best results all the time.
Yes, it's clearly not working, but there's something that I want to say about the Flyers, which is they're not bad. They're still having a good season. They're 545. They've lost 11 of their last 14 games, and they still are 545. Did they win every fucking game of the season before all this happened?
I mean, they were playing pretty
they're
well.
not out of it. That's the craziest thing about it to me. Like, it seems like the sky is falling, and Michkov's been unproductive. I get it. There's clearly some shit with the coach there, but I'm like, what is happening in the East that the Flyers are terrible, can't get out of their own way, and they're like kind of in the picture? It's a question that we can ask to the great Charlie O'Connor. You know him best from his stuff with PHLY Flyers, but you also, know him equally good from sitting next to Rick Tocchet in that amazing clip. He said Charlie will tell you. What'll Charlie tell us about the Flyers?
Well, what do you want to know? Because these last couple days have been pretty crazy. I'm curious to see if the Briere presser calms things down a bit. But I mean, let's be honest. This has been bubbling for a while. Matvei Michkov last year led the team in goals. He is absolutely the most loved player on the team right now by the fans, particularly the online fans. And he appeared to be more than living up to expectations as a rookie. And then this year, a new coach comes in and basically decides that he's not going to give him the minutes that fans want him to get. And even when the team was winning in November and December, people were mad. Now the team's losing, so people are absolutely livid. And this had just been simmering and simmering. And then there's the carnival on Sunday. Me and my co-hosts are there. It's a day after he gets a season low amount of ice time in a game. The question's got to be asked. I did not expect Rick to be that. I'm not going to use the word abrasive, but it definitely seemed like it wasn't calm. It was more like he he said it as if like he feels like he's being attacked constantly and he's trying to defend himself. And I just don't think that was the right tactic to take because, and I wrote a column about this in December, the last time that the Tocchet kind of lost his temper about Michkov questions. It's like, look, like if you think what you're doing and the way you're handling Michkov is the best way to handle Michkov, then just do it. And don't worry about what the outside people are saying. Don't worry about what the fans on social media are saying. Just do it and trust that in a year or two, you're going to be proven right. And it just seemed like that interview, it seemed like he came in where as soon as he heard the name Michkov, like his eyes went red and he's like, I'm going to go and, and tell all these fans why they're wrong. And it didn't really help the situation. It just ignited it.
I mean, you're close to this. Does this feel like a circus as much as it does from the outside perspective? And because it kind of feels like a circus in Philadelphia going back a while to this point, like even to the Cutter Gauthier thing, like this new brass seems to be like, we're like big, proud Flyers against the world. And sometimes it's Flyers against the Flyers. Like, is this whole thing kind of a circus with this new regime?
I don't think I would say that. What I would say is that, and I've always said this about the Flyers, I think the Flyers are just the chaos organization. They like to be in the news. This has always been the case, dating back to the time I was born. I mean, dating back to when they make the big trade for Eric Lindros. And then they feud with Eric Lindros. They strip the C from Eric Lindros on live television on ESPN. Like, this is just the Flyers. They trade Richardson Carter out of nowhere. Their captain, guy who they signed for 11 plus years. Like, this is just what the Flyers do. This is who they are. I also think that it's being amplified by the fact that the team they haven't been to the playoffs since 2020. They haven't had a home playoff game since 2018. They haven't been cup contender good probably since the early 2010s. And fans are really ticked off. And because of that, the team doesn't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. And this is where I'll on a little bit, like Twitter is not what it was 5 or 6 years ago. It is now built for anger. It used to be a site where people got angry sometimes. Now it is a site that is built for anger. And I'm not convinced that Twitter is actually truly an accurate representation of all of the fans, but is certainly an accurate representation of the angriest fans. And the angriest Flyers fans are really angry right now, and that's helping to drive these narratives even further.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do you feel like this has gotten any better based off of the response from the general manager and the coach over the last couple of days? Like, it feels like this has only made things worse from the leadership group, right?
Well, I don't know about that.
At least louder.
Yeah, I mean, my view is that the angriest people on social media were going to be angry regardless. If he didn't talk, they were going to be angry he didn't talk. If he talked, they were going to be angry that he didn't fire Rick Tocchet. I don't think this press conference was directed at them because I think they know they're never going to convince them. You're never going to win them over. I think this press conference was directed more or less at like the normie fans who just want to be reassured that they're not going to mess up with Matvei Michkov. And I do think it was received well with them. I just don't think, like, I guess I'll put it this way, like, I don't think going on Twitter and hitting the For You page is a good way to decide whether this was received well. Because as we saw with the Fire Tocchet chants, that viral tweet got like 170,000 impressions, and the people that were pushing it were acting like it was the biggest thing ever. I was at the game. There were maybe 20 people who chanted Fire Tocchet.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I saw your tweet that was like, it's not really taken. And I figured, okay, well, then maybe it just like didn't make its way down to the lower bowl or something. But like, it being something that you can count on 4 hands, I understand that. And it's a good point that you raise, which is like the thing that you're seeing online, you might not be able to win with that anyway. And especially with like just algorithmically how it is now built. But I go back to, if you look at where the Flyers are right now, obviously they've gotten there in a very weird way. But if we had you on today to talk about the Flyers being ahead of the Panthers in the standings, I know the Panthers are having a bad season, but like being a middle of the pack, sitting outside the playoffs, 545 points percentage type of team, you wouldn't be shocked, right? It's just been an odd way in which they've gotten here.
Yeah, well, I mean, the January swoon really did mess with everybody's heads because they did get off to a good start. I mean, they were second place in the Metro in December, even into early January. They were in a playoff spot solidly, and then they fell apart. If they would have gotten to this point a little bit more normally, we we win 2 games, lose 2 games, win 1, lose 3, win 3, lose 2, and then you ended up in this spot. I don't think the temperature would be as high, but because they got people excited because they were in a spot, and then it all falls off. Add in the fact that there were a lot of people during the good times, during November, December, who were screaming to the rafters that this is all a mirage and that the plan is never going to work and that they need to tank. And then those people essentially got proven right by the team falling apart in January. Then you have all the people who were excited suddenly flip to being angry, and then you get this.
Chat, I'm not saying that I have 4 hands. I'm saying that you could count to 20 on 4 hands. I can use Pete's hands. I can use Charlie's hands. Not to assume how many hands that you all have.
It was a weird. My hands are my hands.
Yes.
Don't use my hands.
Well, with your consent, I would use your hands. Then we'd be able to count 20 rather easily. But yes, I could have used feet and toes, but I was trying to say the word 20, and I'm having a tough week. Pete, go.
Charlie, where do you stand on the Michkov of it all and the bigger picture of this team? Because it's a weird season, but is there enough to believe in Michkov and enough to believe in the direction of this team right now?
I think there's definitely enough to believe in Michkov. Now, the Michkov situation, it really boils down to 2 things. Number one, it is 100% true that he didn't come to camp in great shape. That is true. That's not made up. Michkov admitted it. Briere's now said it on the record. The coach has said it on the record. He didn't show up to camp in great shape, and that's played into why he's having a disappointing sophomore year. That said, my understanding is that now, when he got to camp, he maybe wasn't in the greatest cardio shape. He had a few extra pounds on, and he had to burn all that off and get into better cardio shape. My understanding is that he's basically done that at this point. And now it's more just because he didn't have the best summer, he's behind the 8 ball from a strength standpoint, and that's hurting his effectiveness. But if he has the cardio, he could play more. They could give him more minutes. They could play him in a higher role. They don't have to be giving him 10 minutes a night. And it just seems like, Rick Tocchet has decided that, in part because of his frustration about how he didn't prepare as well as he wanted him to in the summer, that Tocchet's gonna not trust him. And that's where I do side with the fans, where it's look, I'm not saying I think Michkov should be getting 20 minutes a night, but I find it hard to justify him getting 10. You know what I mean? And that's why on our podcast on Sunday, we asked him, what does he have to do to earn more trust? Because clearly there isn't a lot of trust there at the moment. Now, in terms of Michkov as a player, I mean, even this year, even with the lack of fitness and everything like that, his underlying numbers of 5-on-5 are still great. He's still driving play. He still does make plays. Now, he's making fewer of them than he did last year, but he's still making plays. And he's doing it in fewer minutes that he's getting. So I still do very much believe in his talent. I believe that if he goes next summer and has a killer summer and works his tail off, I'm confident that he's still going to be a real good player, and we're going to look back on this as just a blip. But obviously, he has to put the work in, and then the other side of that is when he puts the work in, Tocchet has to show that he's not going to hold a grudge because of the season. Right. And that's where I do think there can be some reasonable concerns.
Yeah. So I was going to say, it sounds like it's personal. And I mean, for this to work for either side in Philadelphia, there has to be a good working relationship between the coach and the player. And that's where I'm I get accountability and I get wanting to teach a player a certain amount of professionalism, but it does seem like it's getting a little too personal. Yes.
Yeah, and that was, I think, why it was necessary for Briere to stand up there, and not only stand up there and take the heat and answer the questions, but also, let me put it this way: if Briere is going up in front of the media and saying these things, I guarantee you that also means he's talking to Rick Tocchet behind closed doors and being like, Rick, you gotta tone it down. I can't be cleaning up your messes and putting out your fires every week because you lose your temper about a Matvei Michkov question. And you saw last night, Michkov got 16 minutes. He had a nice assist. Tocchet praised him both in between period, or it was an in period interview with the local network on the bench, and then he praised him again after the game. He was getting longer shifts last night, so it does seem like whether Rick Tocchet just read the tea leaves or whether he was specifically told, hey, you got to lower the temperature too. I think message was received not just by, it wasn't just a message from Danny Briere to the fans and to hockey at large, but it was also a message to Tocchet, like, look, I got your back, but also this is a two-way street. You can't be putting me in these positions anymore. This guy's really important, and we're backing him too. So you got to get on. If you're not on board, you got to get back on board with this guy being a long-term part of the future.
It sounds like he's showing favoritism to Michkov, and if I were another young player on the team, I'd be pretty fired up that why does this guy hate me? Picking favorites as usual, Rick Tocchet. But I'll tell you what, Flyers knew how to see him in hockey. They did win a game last night.
There you go.
1 in a row, could make it 2 before the break. Charlie, always great talking to you. Thanks for jumping on, man.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, guys.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to What Chaos here on YouTube. You will get everything, daily episodes, player interviews, and so much more. It's all here on the What Chaos YouTube. Hit subscribe.